Okay, on this week's McDonald's Sessions, I'm here with Brad. We're going to talk about your past and talk about kind of what you do at the races. I think it'll be super interesting, and I'm really curious about what your thoughts are on all of us runners. Okay, I'm here with Brad, and we are going to talk a little bit about what you did in high school. I kind of picture you as a football player, but what did you do?
I used to be a lot skinnier.
But you're taller.
Yeah, I played football and I ran track. I was this tall as a 8th grader, so I was a starter on the 8th grade team, a backup on the 9th grade team, and by my sophomore year I was sweeping the floor at halftime and pulling the bleachers out and pushing them back in after the games. My basketball career was over, but I ran middle distance and intermediate hurdles, and back when the races were in yards rather than meters, and played a receiver in football.
Where'd you go to school? Did you go to school around Kansas City?
Yeah, I grew up out in Lee Summit when there was just a Lee Summit High School.
My mom went to Lee Summit, so she might know you.
What's your mom's last name?
Pulley.
Yeah, there's lots of Pulleys out
Yeah,
there.
there's Ellen Pulley, Tommy Pulley, and Bill Pulley are the three.
I think I know Bill Pulley, maybe.
Yeah, he would have been the youngest one.
I'm 62, so we're all old at this point.
They had a flower shop out on Langsford Road. Or not a flower shop, they had a field. It's all like houses now, but they used to sell, I used to even go out there when I was really young, and we'd sell flowers on Memorial Day, and people drive by and people come from all over to buy peonies.
No, be darned.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
Lee Summit's different. It's really
Oh, yeah.
growing a lot, and when I got out of law school, I decided I wanted to have a short commute.
Yeah.
So I have lived in Kansas City ever since then, but people that I grew up with, just most of them don't understand why I live in Kansas City, why I didn't go back to Lee Summit, which is a great place. I just literally didn't want to spend an hour a day on the road. So.
Yeah, at least it's been different just since I've been a kid. I mean, it's so much bigger.
Yeah.
And I mean, they only had that one high school for a long time. They probably need a third one. I think they only have the north and.
They have 3 now.
Oh, they have 3?
Yeah, and then there's their plans for another one, I think. So yeah, it's big. I can't even fathom living in a town where there would be people my age that I didn't go to school with.
Yeah.
That's just it was a big school then. My graduating class was over 500, so it was due for adding a second high school even that far back, but they didn't do it for a while.
Cool. And I think my mom played in the band with Pat Metheny.
Yeah, she was older than me then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, he's a stud.
Yeah. So after you graduated from Lee Summit, what did you do after that?
I went to college down Springfield at Drury.
My brother went to Drury.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Yeah. And good school. And then went to law school at Mizzou.
And did you do any athletics, even if not in your murals, or did you run or anything when you were there?
When I was a freshman, maybe not a freshman. One year they discontinued football intramural football because it was getting too rough.
Yeah.
And they started soccer because again soccer wasn't that big that long ago. And in the first game of the history of intramural soccer, I broke my leg during the game because I didn't know what I was doing. We weren't wearing shin guards, and we crossed legs, and the other guy drank more milk than I did, I guess, as a kid. So I broke my leg, and they canceled the soccer season.
They thought football was rough, and then they got to soccer.
And everybody was mad at me for ruining the soccer. But yeah, that was the extent of my just intramurals. Yeah.
So you said you went to law school. What happened after that? Were you a lawyer or?
Yeah, I practiced for in a law firm for a while, and then kind of went over to in-house with TWA, the old TWA airline.
My uncle worked for TWA.
Yeah.
I got connections
You
to
do.
every person.
You do. I may or may not have known him. I worked in the legal department, but it was located in the overhaul base up north of the river.
Yeah.
And then I worked for the gas company, which I went from kind of a sexy sounding job working for an airline to the least sexy job, a public utility. And then made a career change and went to work for the Arthritis Foundation and worked not for profit. That's where Troy and I met. Troy Fitzgerald, who owns KC Running Company, and we worked together there. And then he left to find his fortune as a for-profit guy selling mortgages. Right about the time the mortgages went to crap in 2008, and then in 2009, the Arthritis Foundation went through a big reorganization nationally and went from 52 chapters to 10, and so I lost my job there. And so in 2009, 2010, we were both looking for something new to do, and he had always worked at Gribbles at the time, and it was a runner, and was involved with that industry and thought there might be an opportunity there. And unemployment causes things to seem possible that you might not consider otherwise, and so I think 2009, 2010 we started helping some third parties with races, and then 2010 I believe it was, we started some of our own and started working together.
So you didn't really have plans to be working at KC Running Company and doing what you're doing now?
No.
Big accident?
Yeah, nothing was coming my way. Otherwise, it was more closely tailored to my career path, whatever that was at that point. You know, I'd practiced law and worked in not-for-profit, so I had kind of an odd career arc. And then it was just an opportunity. And I think after losing a job that I felt like was outside of my control, I was not eager to go work for the man again. And so I think doing something on our own that was what we could make of it ourselves appealed to me quite a bit. And we've been doing it together ever since.
So what's your job title there?
No, we don't really have. When I have to fill out a form, I put event director, but we don't really have titles. It's a very informal. Troy's extremely informal, and so we could call ourselves whatever we wanted. But he owns the business and he's in charge. And then it's not a very big operation, so we all kind of do a little bit of everything, and there's a lot of overlap, and then occasionally stuff slips between the cracks because we don't have well-defined responsibilities.
Yeah.
But I tend to work more on race promotion and working with third-party races to get them under contract and work out. When we first started, and we started the business kind of because we saw not-for-profits like the Arthritis Foundation, where we'd work together, that were going from race to golf tournament to banquet to auction to just fundraiser, and they didn't have enough time to really do any of them very well in most cases. And there were some good races that, because of their location or because of the time of year or whatever, had developed a pretty good following, but the not-for-profit struggled to commit to it, the time and investment and such, and they were getting that it needed, and they were getting volunteers were getting burned out. There'd be turnover, and races were starting to go away that were doing perfectly well. It's just that the charities have trouble. So we said, what if we help you all with making sure that the logistics went smoothly and was not a heavy burden, wasn't burning out people. We'll take care of the race part of it and bring a runner's perspective to your plans, and then you worry about volunteers and sponsors and the kind of stuff that you need to do, and maybe the two of us together can keep growing the businesses. And at that time, social media was just starting to take off, and most of the other race management companies were focused primarily on timing. They were timers, and they didn't seem to want to interact with the race organizers all that much. And so our willingness to help them plan and maybe we started building up a database of runners and registrants from other races, and so just helping them market beyond the people that cared about their cause helped them grow their events or sustain their growth that they'd had already, and the niche was developed.
I would say, like, for me, I don't know if other runners are different, but I don't really, I know there's a cause to there's pretty much a charity for every race, but I don't really, like you said, I don't really follow the charity. I follow more where the races are, or maybe the medal or whatever. It's never really, there's a few races maybe I've run because of the charity, but most of the time it is really the other stuff around it. It's not that I don't want to support the charity. It's just that's not the reason that that I'm there.
We've surveyed people in the past, and the cause is not often the highest priority when making a decision. It is for some people. It's the first priority, and so that's what we said. Look, you recruit the people that you know that care about the cause, that are passionate about what your mission of your organization is, and then we'll try to bring as many of the running community that it's a good match for. Not everybody wants to do a half marathon, or not everybody wants to do a 5K, but we'll try to get the word out to as many of them as possible, and also hopefully develop a reputation for the event, that it'll be well run, the course will be the right distance, the timing will be accurate and timely, and just some of the issues that sometimes would slip through the cracks that would impact runners' desire to go back and do it again. Hopefully those will be taken care of. And we're not perfect with it, but it's better than it used to be. Technology is better, for one thing, and we're able to I think help bring some credibility to races, especially if I've never done a race for a particular race before as a runner. I might be more likely to do it if I knew I'd run with KC Running Company at other races. They seem to do a decent job. So.
Yeah, I'd say if it's on your website, then I guess I'm just speaking for myself, but I can trust that race. Not that I wouldn't run stuff outside of it, but I just, the list that you guys run is usually pretty good.
It's a competitive, and has been a competitive calendar of races. It's really blown up the number of races. A lot of organizations thought, wow, these races look big, we should do one, and that's not always the recipe for success, but there's, as you know, lots of options on almost any given weekend day, and so it's how do we help that organization, or if it's our race, how do we differentiate our event, and one of it is to try to be smoothly operated and reliable, and something you can count on. Used to be race distances varied widely. A 5K could be all sorts of, and that's still a little bit the case, just sometimes because of the limitation of the location. But I think runners would get frustrated if they ran a 5K and it was 3.4 miles or 2.7 or something. And so we've been able to hone in a little bit better, and also just help an organization understand that that's really important. If they're not, if the race isn't led by a runner or people that know runners, then they would tend to do things as it was convenient for the police department or convenient for their volunteers, and overlook maybe the priority of the runner and how you want to get them to come back year after year as much as possible.
So on an average day, what's your work look like?
So if you send an email to any of the registration sites, that goes to my inbox. So I'm trying to answer questions about why our website says one time and our registration site says another time, or what does the shirt look like, or just issues with people's registrations that they need fixed. Sometimes I can help on. And then I'm doing the social media, so trying to keep up with that, answer comments and questions that come up through that avenue, update sites, try to get information out, and working with the third parties. We're not as busy with that now, but that gets really busy from March to October. We have a lot of third-party races. Yeah. And then a little bit of the planning of our upcoming events, and making sure we got a lot of stuff requires a lot of lead time, so we do a better job with lead time this time of year, playing further down the road than when we're kind of firefighting during the months that everybody wants to run.
I'd say that's definitely important too, because sometimes an event will come out and you register for it, and then another event comes out and you're already registered, can't do it. So that lead time is important. I don't know if it's as important to the charities or the people running the race. It's probably much harder to nail that down, but
we are better at it sometimes than others. One of the challenges we have right now is we converted this year to making t-shirts and opt-in rather than an opt-out as it had been in the past for most of our 5Ks and 10Ks, and but we're not good enough at, and partly it's the supply chain issues. It's still we're not sure what we're going to be able to get in the way of a long sleeve red t-shirt or a short sleeve green t-shirt, and so we can't say for sure this is what the shirt's going to look like. We're hesitant to order well in advance while we can be sure, because we're never quite sure how many people are going to sign up. But we're also saying, hey, would you like to buy a shirt for $6 or $8? And people are like, yeah, what's it look like? And well, we don't know. And so we're asking people kind of on faith. We try to make it to where when we finally get the shirts out and the shirt designs out, there's still a possibility to go back in and add a shirt if it's something that you like. But it's been very interesting because before, when we had it as an opt-out, it was the exact same process, but you check no shirt and you saved money. Now it's you add a shirt, no shirt is $0, and then adding a shirt is additional dollars. It used to be about 10%, maybe 15% would opt out of a shirt, and now only about 50%, 60% opt into a shirt. And so, we'd gotten a lot of feedback from people saying, gosh, I don't need another race shirt. And so to try to keep we lowered the registration price to indicate that you could potentially be adding a shirt. We weren't including that. And the thought would be that that would make it more affordable to do as many, if not more, races if shirts weren't important to us. And then if you add a shirt, it's about the same price as it was in the past. Yeah.
So I know you do a lot of events. Do you have a favorite race?
We get a huge kick out of doing Rock the Parkway. That we feel like that's our signature race.
Yeah.
It is by far the most stressful race. And so if you asked me last week of March or first week of April, I'll tell you that's the race I hate the most. But it's the one that when we're done and if it goes well, we're the proudest of. For me, and I think sometimes I come across as being too focused on selling, and I'm always paranoid about that. But to me, a successful event is where a lot of people are there, because I want people to be there, and I want to see people and see people enjoying themselves and having a great day on the course, or accomplishing something, or just enjoying each other's company. I've always had the personality. I've always been the guy that brought people together, and races are a great chance to bring people together. And so if we have one that maybe the theme's not great, or the location's not great, or the weather's not great, or whatever, then it's frustrating to me, and it's not as much fun for me to be at the event but not have as many people there. So I think sometimes people take my frustration, well, it sounds like my frustration because I didn't see them at an event, as being something other than it is. Whether it's a group run or a shindig at our store or a race, my goal is to bring people together, because I want, these two people to get to know each other better, or to support each other. I know a lot of people individually and that don't know each other, and I know what a good combination it would be if they ever got the chance to run with each other.
Speaking of that, today I told you I did Amanda's video, and she specifically said that you introduced her to Chris. Like you said, you guys are both fast. You guys.
I tried to pit them against each other.
That's kind of what it said.
Each other's arch nemesis, and I still tried to poke them a little bit every once in a while. When Amanda has a good race, I'll give Chris a hard time, or vice versa. But I just like I say, I think it's fun for people. Sometimes I'll meet 2 or 3 people that work in the same industry. That's why I did a question on Facebook recently about what do you do for a living with some of our team members. And people seem to really enjoy learning about, I work in that same industry, and things, trying to find what people have in common.
Yeah.
I think what's fun and makes it, and I guess there's a ulterior motive. The more you enjoy what you're doing, the more likely you'll come out. But again, it's just a matter, to me, a success is a way of a big group of people and they're having fun.
Yeah. Okay, so we talked about your favorite race. What is some of the more unique races that you've done? Maybe a location or distance or anything like that?
We're starting to do a little bit more of the rail to trail, which you do a lot of.
Yep.
And, one of the biggest challenges and expenses for us is police and closing streets for courses and such. And so there's a huge advantage to doing a rail to trail. It doesn't have any of that.
Except in Osawatomie, it crosses that main road.
Yeah.
That's the only bad thing about it there. But almost everywhere else, you do not have any issues at all.
Yeah, it's just different. And quite honestly, I like them because they're smaller, and so I can wrap my arm around them. If I'm unloading water at a water station, it's 1 cooler or 2 coolers, 20 coolers or something. So again, it's just a different experience. We were seeing that people like that experience, and so the challenge is that there's different trails have different accessibility levels.
Yeah.
That Flint Hills Trail is not great for accessibility, whereas the one that goes out of Ottawa, that Prairie Spirit, I think,
Yeah.
that they use for loggerhead, that's great. I mean, there's crossing roads every mile or every 2 miles, so it's very easy to get in and get uniform water stations set up. But so that's just something new and something that's kind of fun. We just got done with groundhog, and that being indoors is different. The Hunt Midwest people do so much. We've shrunk over time, staff-wise, over the pandemic, and so I'm doing coursework. I didn't used to do the coursework, and so I'm doing coursework much more than I used to. And so how easy or difficult the course is to set up impacts my how much I like the course or don't like the course. The Liberty course is convoluted. It goes all over the place, but they do a great job of doing a lot of pre-work before we ever go out, and so we're just augmenting what they're already doing, and it's not that much pressure. But sometimes courses that are convoluted, we're out trying to set them up in the dark and figure out which street is which, and we're just getting better at starting earlier and maybe going the day before and pre-marking courses and just trying to take the heat off. I used to get where I was very I didn't know the term was anxiety, but I was getting anxious about races. I just wanted them to be over. I didn't enjoy the race itself, and I'm learning as I get older, just start earlier and do pre-work as much as possible to reduce the stress of race day, and it makes it a lot more fun. The other thing I don't like about doing coursework is I don't get to see as many people. I see the backside of the person that's in last place and the front side of the person that's in first place, and that's about all I see. Especially if I'm doing my job, oftentimes I'll wander away from my job to go talk to you or to talk to somebody else pre or post race. And I used to love working the finish line because I could call out everybody's names when they came through the finish line and interact and see people whose faces light up when they see the clock and they see how well their time is and how well they're doing in the race. And I miss that. And sometimes you'll be at a race and usually I can see you from a distance, but usually there's a lot of people I don't see, and I don't realize they were there until I'm looking at the photos afterwards because I'm just busy out on the course. But the race that we're not unfortunately doing this year because we had a date conflict, but there's a race over in Olathe, a 5K, 10K out of an elementary school. Now I'm blanking on the name.
The Bug Run.
Bug Run, yeah, Jaden's Hope. Jaden's Bug Run. It's a great race, but we struggled helping them for about 3 straight years. The course is complicated a little bit. There's a 5K and a 10K.
I like that course because we don't run over there ever.
Yeah, it wanders all over the neighborhoods and such, and sometimes the weather's a little iffy, and that's affected our timings from time to time. But it was always just about the time I was starting to get the hang of the course, and we had a conflict and couldn't work with them. They're wonderful people. It's a great cause, a really good event, but it just was always one that seemed to cause me stress because, with what I am doing now, my biggest concern is getting everybody back to the finish line.
Yeah.
That's why I get so frustrated with Alex Greer, because sometimes he has trouble getting back to the finish line, and it's probably because of something that I didn't do correctly to get it. It just takes one person. Often it's not Alex, it's somebody in front of him that took a wrong turn, and everybody followed, and we've had that happen a few times, and that's to me just the worst possible thing. I'm as stressed as I can be until I see that first runner come to the finish line, and I know it's possible to get to the finish line, and therefore if somebody didn't make it, it's an error that they might have made. But I don't want that either. I want everybody to run the course exactly how it was set up and intended to be run, and every race I'm paranoid about putting an arrow pointing in the wrong direction or not putting it where it should be, but we get it done most of the time.
Yeah. So speaking of the rails to trails, they're flat. Everyone, when we hit hills, seems to blame you. Like, I think there's a meme out there that's like really Brad, or there might even be t-shirts. So what do you think about that?
Again, I'm trying to figure out courses, especially for group runs, that are close to the distance that we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And our
So you don't purposely
I
put us on the hills?
I never even look at the elevation guide. And as I always tell people, and it's true, I think they think I'm kidding, when I'm driving the truck, I don't notice a difference. I'm not astute enough to be looking into that, I guess, because I'm not a runner. I don't, worry about that as much as I should. Now, I've gotten, I think, Sid convinced that maybe it's a good thing, and when she has a good day at Hospital Hill or a hilly event, she can thank me instead of be cussing me on that group run.
I don't think anyone's mad. They just, well,
They're giving me a hard time.
Yeah, I think a lot of, I ran hills today, and I chose it, and I still hated myself for doing it. So
Kansas City is a hilly community, a hilly area, and there's areas that are deceiving. Even on trails, they have a lot. And I was surprised by that, how there's more variation in the elevation than I suspect before I go out there. Because again, I don't look at the elevation guides like I should. But when the few times I've tried to run some Rock Island or something, I feel like it's uphill both ways.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just even looking at a flat trail that's long and straight out in the distance, there's an optical illusion of it being a hill. But I get a lot of heat for my hills on the course, and usually if I warn them about it on a group run ahead of time, they know it's really bad, because if I've noticed it, then they're in for trouble. But hopefully it works out for them come race day.
Yeah, I just thought I think it's funny that people say that. So, So like when you see runners go by, like what do you think? Do you see, I don't know, Katie or Sydney or all them, and just think they're having a good day, or you're glad they're here? Like, what is your thought process, especially the people that you see pretty much every week?
I think it's interesting, the different things that motivate and drive people, what appears to be the reasons why they do events. I've kind of got a rant that I'm going on this year, and that is, you don't have to take on every challenge we put out in front of you. I'm kind of I don't know.
That's not going to work.
Yeah. Well, I worry about injury, and I worry about people not having a positive experience. I want everybody to leave an event, and so rather than do a longer distance and have difficulty walking the rest of the weekend, I'd much rather them have a shorter distance that they can, post their time and be proud of it, or just have a more comfortable. I was thinking the other day that one of the things that's the most fun about going to a race, in my mind, is seeing other people and getting a chance to talk to other people and celebrate successes and not. And sometimes if you're at a distance that's longer than what you're maybe trained for, or it creates a more likelihood that you're finishing further back, and you're missing out on that,
Yeah.
So if I'm in the back of the pack on a half marathon, if I'd had the chance to run a 10K instead, then I might have a better experience and feel better about coming back next year. It's funny how sometimes people's impressions of races have to do with the weather the last time they ran it, or their personal experience with it. That's a terrible race. It's like, what's bad about it? Well, it goes raining last year. It's like, well, what if it doesn't rain? And so, I want races to do well and have big crowds, and I want people to have good experiences. You're paying a lot of money to do it, and you're taking up a lot of time, and I want it to be a positive reinforcement as much as possible. Yet I'm saying, take on the 39.3 challenge, take on the 100, 200, 300K challenge, and sometimes I'm worried it's kind of a mixed message, or we're incenting people to do something that they don't necessarily need, because they don't have to prove anything to anybody. It is a competitive, and one of the things I think is really interesting, and I think this is true for quite a few runners, is they're having athletic success as an adult that maybe they didn't have as a kid, and so I think that's awesome. But at the same time, we don't need to make up for all past frustrations on this race or this year or whatever else. And so I'm trying to figure out how to support people in taking on new and interesting challenges without facilitating them overdoing it and getting hurt. Because if they're hurt and they're not at the race, I don't get to see them, and I'm being selfish in that way. I'd rather see them and see them with a smile on their face rather than feel like it was a bad day.
Yeah, Well, I mean, I know like most people I hang out with, they like the challenge, even if it's difficult. So it's definitely hard to tell them they don't have to take on every challenge because we want every challenge pretty much.
Well, I think there are some challenges that you can get. But I always think the 50K challenge that we threw out a few years ago and still do is one of the best ones because it's not such long distances. It's almost a logistical challenge as much as it is a running challenge.
To find like the races at different places. And stuff.
And I like I say, I worry about people that are constantly taking on the longer distance, and you're pretty bad about influencing that. But to the point that they're like, oh, now I'm hurt and I can't run for 3 months or whatever. And one of the things that I've been trying to do over the last few years is have group runs, during the winter time on Sundays or, all year round on Wednesdays to get people. I guess it eases my conscience. Well, I provided an opportunity for them to get a long run in, whether they take advantage of it or not. And it doesn't work out for everybody. It's not logistically possible for everybody, but just to give them as many chances to be successful on race day as possible.
So you talked a little bit about not overdoing it. Is there any other, I don't know if it's tips, but things you would like to be able to tell runners that would make either races run easier, make your life easier? Like, what could runners do to make the event better? How about that?
Gosh, I can't think of too much on that. Maybe we should have done this on Monday right after a race, and then I had some frustrations. No, it's people are great. They're very accommodating. They're obviously showing up many times on hot days or really cold days or really wet days, and still showing up and still doing it. We're always trying to engage new people that are entering the running market. During the pandemic, I think a lot of people started running. A lot of people stopped running too. But and so we're trying to fold them into here's kind of how things normally operate, pack and pickup, and results afterwards. And we're evolving and all that too, trying new and different ways of doing things. And but I don't think there's too much that people do that cause us any heartache. It's we're there for the runners, and so we have to meet people from wherever they're coming. Whether they live far away. We have lots of people that drive quite a ways. And one of the things, in a more perfect world, I would like to be able, and we've done this in fits and starts in the past, is provide more resources to runners and walkers with nutritionists or with cross-training folks or stretching folks or medical professionals and different people who can, again, help them have a more positive experience on race day. And because we know them and sometimes they contact us, but we're so busy with group runs and races and different things, sometimes I don't fold those opportunities in. We've got a way to communicate with a lot of runners and know a lot of folks that I think if we had more time to set up more programming to augment, and there's wonderful training programs out there. There's lots of group trainers that provide information to folks if they're serious about it. But sometimes maybe there's newer runners or people that are hesitant to go to a group training situation, aren't getting the information that maybe they could use. And there's YouTubes and all sorts of information out there, but we've done that in fits and spurts, and I think people have enjoyed it and learned from it. We just need to make sure we find time to do it, especially as we get ready and we're trying to bring 5,000 people together to do Rock the Parkway, or a bunch of people together to do other long races. Equipping them with as much information, as different tools as possible, I think is part of our responsibility.
And I don't know if there's a ton of people that are like brand new to running that watch these videos, but I think one of the important things to know is if you're new to the running scene, that everyone is really nice. Brad would always help you. There's just a lot of things that there's a lot of good people out there, and there's all kinds of paces. You don't have to worry about if you think you're the slowest. I mean, I guess someone has to be the slowest, but even then, you can still have a good time being slower or whatever you think the problem is to start. There's always help out there. There's always other people that will run with you.
I'm amazed how supportive the running community is of each other. Fast people, slow people, short distance, long distance, and everything in between. It's helping them celebrate successes, commiserate during challenging times, providing advice, resources, referrals, the team aspect, the community aspect of it's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
And again, that's why I want, if you come to a group run, I don't want to make you feel self-conscious, but I would really like to take you, if you're new to the group, around and introduce you to people. And the more I learn about them, then I'd say, I almost always say to group run, if you see somebody running by themselves, slow down or speed up and run with them, introduce yourselves.
You don't have to do that with me. If you see me, you can talk to me, but I am fine running by myself. And there's other people like that too.
But there's somebody who might learn from you.
Yeah.
If they met you and or find out that they have something in common with you outside of running that makes it more fun for them to come back the next week. And I can run by myself at home. I don't need to come to a group run.
Yeah, all the people that all the group that we have, like I didn't know any of those people, so it's true. I mean, I would say, if you do see me at races, definitely come talk to me. I mean, I talk to a ton of people that I have no idea who they are.
Yeah,
and it's really interesting. And when they say they watched one of my videos, that's good too, because then I feel like at least I'm making these for a reason. So.
Well, it's a reason for you to make contact. I'm not somebody who, before I'd had this job, was all that comfortable introducing myself to a stranger.
Yeah.
And even though I'm kind of outgoing and overbearing, after you get to know me early on, I'm kind of shy, and I've had to get out of my comfort zone to make sure if I see somebody that I don't know who they are at a group run, to go up and introduce myself to them, because I'm the one hosting the event usually, and through that I've gotten to meet a lot of people, and it's always my goal to meet and get to know more people, because every time I do, I find out something interesting, quirky, something I have in common with them. And I would say the runners that have the most fun at events are ones that do the same thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might be a shy person and you really have to push yourself to get out of your comfort zone, but it's worth it. And if nothing else, you might find that you meet more people that share that personality trait, but yet now you have somebody that you know. So yeah, that's good advice.
And I would say too that especially like the longer races, like everyone pretty much will say hi and say good job to you. I mean, there's just times in your life where you don't hear like good job or great work except when you're running. It's like some of the like strangers supporting you. Can't think of another time that you can get that in your life. So it's.
When we're designing race courses, I always thought of out and backs as kind of a lazy course, that the race director wasn't very imaginative in coming up with a course. And then somebody told me one time, man, there's nothing I love more than seeing people at a race, because sometimes I only see the people that I kind of run in my pace.
Yeah.
And on an out and back, I get to see almost everybody.
Yeah.
And
I like that sometimes, and sometimes I don't like it. It depends. Like sometimes you have, what's the one in Lawrence? Out by the
Rexy run?
Yeah, so that one you kind of do an out and back, like you do a big circle, and then there's like this other part, and you do like a real short out and back, but you still kind of get that same thing. So you're not really seeing everything a whole bunch of times, but you still get that. So I like those really short out and backs better than like the rails to trails. I mean, that is all out and back, which is fine too. I mean, I just like it to be different. So yeah,
I think. And race courses are one of our biggest challenges.
I can imagine.
We have people that contact us and can you help us come up with a course, and that's tough for us because there's very little that isn't already being pretty heavily used, and the reasons why other places aren't being used is because the police department or the folks that are there or the parking access, whatever, just doesn't work out well. And so I'm always worried that we're overusing some good spots. We just lost the ability to use Blue Hawk for races. We had 2 races.
Oh, really?
Out there.
Oh, because they built so much stuff up.
Yeah.
I saw them put a Whataburger out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's why.
Patrick Mahomes. But we run into that a lot. We try to find places that have the infrastructure, the streets and the parking lot, but don't have anybody living there or anything else. We used to do a race in the West Bottoms, and then they started building apartments and restaurants and event facilities. And before that, we'd been in the Crossroads with that same race, and that gentrified and got more and more places that didn't like to have streets closed on a Saturday. And so we're always trying to find those spots, and as they develop and become more populated and busier than, down in the West Bottoms, the Hy-Vee Arena is busy with sports, right? So
Yep.
you can't cut off access to that because they have tournaments virtually all the time. So it's courses are a challenge for us, and so sometimes it's got a more of an out and back element to it because we just could use much. That was all the street we could get. We had to double use it as much as possible. And different cities have different rules, what they'll allow and won't allow. In Leawood or in Overland Park, they won't let us close the roads hardly at all. And so they give you a lane. We have to cone a lane, or they cone a lane, and I'm not as fond of that. And I think City of Kansas City would close I-70 as long as it's not between the plaza and downtown, which they're kind of protecting right now, but they would let you close anything. It's just you need 47 cops per mile or whatever to secure it. It gets expensive.
Okay. Well, we talked about your past, kind of what you do with Casey Running Company. Is there anything else that we didn't talk about that you would like to cover?
No, I think, I told you kind of off camera, I think this is a medium and what some other folks are doing is a great way to get to know people. I've really enjoyed getting to know some people through the interviews you've done at other McDonald's around town.
This is the first time I've been at this one.
Yeah, and I've learned a lot, and I find people interesting, and I see that. I think that's great, and again, that helps. Now the next time I see that person at a race, I'll have something I can ask them about or know that we have in common, and so I see more of this type of thing happening. I think it's great, podcasts and videos and different things that people are doing to share their experiences running and get to know each other better. It's just like you said earlier, it's a great community. So the more we can get to know each other, then I think the more fun it'll be, and it'll be a longer activity for the people that do it.
Yeah. Well, I think I definitely have learned a lot about you, so I'm glad you came. I know you were a little bit nervous because you didn't know what we were going to talk about, so I think...
It's odd to have a running-related thing that with the guy... I have completed a marathon. We didn't bring that up, but I...
Do you want to talk about that?
No, I just want you to know it's not like I've never done it. I just don't enjoy it.
Okay. Well, I don't enjoy it either, and I still keep doing it, so...
Well, you also have willpower. I have no willpower.
Well, again, thank you for coming out to McDonald's, and I think everyone's going to really enjoy hearing your story. So that's all from here. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll talk to you next time.